Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Ramble podcast, hosted to you as ever by myself, Dave, and my co-rambler, Dom. In today's podcast, which is episode 9 in the series, we're going to be delving into the important win against Brighton. But before we get into that, how are you, mate? You all good?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you, mate. Especially after watching that game, it was a bit of up and down with emotion, but yeah, just about calmed down and ready to podcast. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good, thank you. I know what you mean. Yeah, it's sort of, even though the scoreline, a 4-2 win, you'd think we'd controlled the game, but it did have its ups and downs. But we're obviously going to be getting into that on today's podcast. So, yeah, should we start with the team sheet? I think there's only sort of one notable change from the previous game, and that was at left back. Zinchenko's back in for Tierney. What were your thoughts on that?
I think it's pretty standard rotation from Arteta. It seems like nowadays he's playing Tierney one game and then having Zinchenko come on for the last 30 minutes and then he's rotating that for the next game. They both bring brilliant qualities to the team, but yeah, it was almost to be expected. As soon as Zinchenko's fit, I feel like Arteta's going to want to test him starting a game again. And then, yeah. What about you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It seemed like it was a game meant for Zinchenko. I feel like Tierney overall is a better defender, and maybe against the real tough games, with the Cities and Liverpools, then Tierney may be the more natural starter. But having said that, Brighton are a great team, so I still think it showed courage to play Zinchenko in this game. But
Yeah.
it's a great position to be in. Either player plays, and I'm not really worried. So yeah, I was really happy with the starting lineup.
There was actually
And
a different person that was starting in our starting lineup today, and it was actually Nelly from 2006 at centre back. You see Gabriel with a black plaster on his face.
oh yes, I wondered what that was. I thought he had a black eye at one point.
So roll back.
But yeah, perfect start to the game with Saka getting on the score sheet so early on. That's another goal for Saka. Taken really well, very composed on the half volley as well. Yeah, great start.
Yeah, straight out the blocks, and that's exactly what you want to see in a game like this, where generally, if you leave it too long to break the duct and get the first goal, then you can sort of struggle because teams, now that they've worked us out, they want to try and sit behind the ball and frustrate us and then counter us. However, if you score so early on, it means that they have to open up and try and attack us to actually get something from the game. So for Saka to score straight away, it really did play into our hands, and he took it well actually, because there's a couple of deflections and then he had a nice touch and just calmly finished it.
Yeah, no, it was a great finish. And yeah, like you say, sometimes going up so early on can actually be detrimental. We've seen it a few times before, but like, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. In this game, I think an early goal really did benefit us. It just made Brighton have to attack. And obviously, they did have a lot of the ball in that first half. I think they probably had more of the ball than Arsenal. But we limited their chances. In fact, most of their chances, if you will, came through our defensive errors. So, yeah, although we allowed them a lot of the ball, they didn't really have too much going for them. So I think we did control it well in that respect.
Yeah, and as soon as we'd scored that first goal, we were really on top in that first half. It seems like as soon as Arsenal start any match, they've got a point to prove and they really want to blow teams away. Almost kind of like how Liverpool used to over the last few seasons, where they'd absolutely blow a team away in the first 30, 40 minutes, and then it's a bit of a struggle for the other team to actually get back into the game. But
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw it not long after that. Martinelli played it into Zinchenko, actually, I think it was, who was in the box, and replicated Nketiah's spin on the ball, and this time onto his left foot. And then we had another chance, which was a pretty decent chance as well. And we had loads of little half chances in the next 20 minutes or so, and we really put the pressure on.
Yeah. Yeah, we were clinical. They they were less so, which is almost it's strange, really, because with us being the away team, it's almost roles reversed in that respect. But yeah, I think we really went in strong with the way we controlled the game, and that really showed with the score at half time. But before we get into that, can we just talk about Odegaard's form right now? Uh, his technical ability, whilst running at speed, and his eye for a pass has got to be one of the best performing centre mids in the league right now. I can only really think of Kevin De Bruyne, really, who's close. What were your thoughts on his performance today?
Well, not just today, but over the last few matches, especially, he's really stepped up his game to another level where he was already performing well, and I didn't think that he'd be able to step up again, but he really has. And it seems like an absolute steal to have got him for about 30 million from Real Madrid. I think you can tell the real quality of a player when, if you look at any team in the league, he would literally be one of the first picks on the team sheet. If any team in the Premier League had the option to have Martin Odegaard in their team, they'd bite your hand off, because this guy is playing so well. His composure on the ball, his quick feet, his eye for a pass, his shooting ability, getting in the right positions. It just seems like there's even his defensive attitude as well. He can press the ball up the pitch, win the ball back, win second balls. He really is starting to look like the perfect centre attacking mid. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously added another goal to his tally as well today. I think that was one thing we were crying out for last season, wasn't it? For him to start adding goals to his game on top of his creative output. Um, yeah, I mean, it wasn't the cleanest of strikes. Well, actually, no, it was a clean strike. I think in commentary they were saying it was quite fluky, but I think he's purposely hit it into the ground for it to sort of dip and loop. I think what made them say it was fluky was just the fact that it wasn't the most powerful of shots. But he's clearly meant that, in my opinion. He's got it on target, and he's got the goal, and it was really quite an important one, as I was mentioning earlier, how he controlled the game. But this goal really did settle the nerves. As a few of our players were starting to look a little bit under pressure, Saliba particularly.
Yeah, yeah. I think Saliba as well. He seems like he has come back from the World Cup pretty rusty, which I guess if he's not played for 6 weeks or so, it's going to happen. But it just doesn't seem like the same player that we had before he actually went to the World Cup. He was so dominant and won every foot race and outmuscled any player that would get through on goal. But he's just starting to make little mistakes. He's misjudging the ball.
Yeah.
He's coming in late to tackles, and I think with every mistake that he makes, it looks like it's playing on his mind, and he's trying to overcompensate the next time there's a challenge, which he shouldn't do that. And he's been so calm and composed before. I think he just needs to have a bit of a reset and almost just chill out a bit and trust in his instincts that he is a good player, he's a great player. But yeah, if there's any player that from today that looked a little bit suspect, it was Saliba in the end of the first half and start of the second.
Yeah, and it's not to be overly critical, of him. I think it makes sense. He's been away for 6 weeks at the World Cup. He hasn't played many minutes. He's going to be a little bit rusty. His match fitness is obviously lacking. But yeah, spot on with the sloppiness. He just seems to. He was so calm and composed pre-World Cup, and now he's jumping into tackles. And even sort of, I think it was about 25 minutes into the game. it was one of their first real chances, Brighton, and it sort of spilled out to him, and all he had to do was clear the ball. A hoof up the pitch will have done, but he almost just passed it out, resulted in a Ramsdale save, and resulting in a corner. So it was little things like that, just little details that were just putting more and more pressure onto Arsenal, which is why that Odegaard goal was just so important because it really did. Obviously it was right before half time, so
Mm.
it was obviously going to settle the nerves anyway at the break, but coming back out in the second half, a 2-0 lead's obviously going to be crucial.
Yeah, I did worry a little bit as well when you're saying about hoofing the ball up because it seems like it was under instruction today because our centre backs, whenever put under pressure, would hoof the ball up, and even Aaron Ramsdale, who normally you'd see him take every risk on trying to play out from the back, but for some reason he really wanted to play the long ball today. Do you think that was under instruction from Arteta? Do you think maybe he had a briefing that Brighton are quite a good pressing team, so once we're winning the game, just hoof it up and
Mm. I'm not too sure, to be honest, because it's not something he's known for, is it? He's normal. Like obviously he has got really good distribution and a look for a pass. Um, but yeah, this just the hoofs didn't seem very directed. They were just sort of that I don't want to pass it out to the back, so I'm going to kick it long. I don't know. It was a strange one. I guess they were trying to put the press on us a little bit to get back into the game. So yeah, so maybe it was instruction. Rather defend as a whole unit than get caught out at the back potentially. But yeah, it was a strange one, and there was a few times where he'd play a real narrow long ball, and it just comes straight back. Got away with it, to be fair, actually.
Yeah, yeah, and to echo your point as well about our performance as well in the first half, we really did dominate the first half. I think the only real threat that came from Brighton was probably Tarek Lamptey down the right. It seemed like him versus Sinchenko was a bit of a mismatch, really. I don't know if that was an oversight by Arteta, but Tarek Lamptey is one of the quickest players in the Premier League. He is absolutely rapid, and Zinchenko, for all his qualities, isn't very fast. So I think one of Brighton's first couple of chances came from Tarek Lamptey burning past Zinchenko and then putting a ball back to Trossard, who narrowly missed the target. But apart from that, we were completely dominant in the first half. And also, following the Tarek Lamptey burning down the wing, he actually won a corner for Brighton, and they had a shot on goal from a corner, which seems like the only way. Well, it seemed like the only way that teams were going to score against us this season, trying the shot from a corner. But Ramsdale missed the ball, and we cleared it from the line. But yeah, it's definitely something which is progressing in the Premier League this season. Players trying to shoot from corners.
Yeah, they seem to put a lot of the pressure onto the keeper and force him into an error. And to be fair, Ramsdale didn't get really anywhere near it. And I don't think he was really being fouled or anything like that. And obviously the ref didn't call the foul, so I think it would have been, it was fair for the ref not to call that. So yeah, again, another one we got away with, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so another chance that we had was Martinelli. He received the ball on the left wing and he passed it into Odegaard's feet, who had a couple of guys around him. And instead of like playing the ball back or just trying to win a foul, he outstrengthed the two of them, dragged the ball back, and then nutmegs the player in front of him back into Martinelli's path, who then he probably should have had a shot, but he chose to square the ball and unfortunately didn't find an Arsenal player. But at this point of the game, we really were on fire, and Odegaard again, he really has his mojo.
Yeah, he really. This was one of his best games in an Arsenal shirt, wasn't it? There's no wonder he got Player of the Match, but yeah, he really was dictating everything. Every play that we were making was coming through him. Um, yeah, it was great to see. Another thing I noticed actually that's worth discussing, and I don't want to keep banging on about it, but Saka seemed to be getting fouled a lot again, and the refs not picking it up. Um, you know, what, what did you notice that, or is it me being picky?
No, to be honest, I notice it in pretty much every game that he plays in. I think it is because he is that good, and the only way that players can actually stop him the majority of the time is to either foul him, bring him down, kick his heels, and you'd end up with 7 players on the pitch for their team if if you kept giving out yellow cards every time there's a foul. But
Yeah.
it it does seem like the refs being more lenient towards players that are fouling Saka. I really don't know why. I've got no idea why, but it's the sort of thing that if you try and highlight it, if Arteta's going to come out in a press conference and say that he feels like Saka's being unfairly treated, then it could just happen more. So
Yeah.
it's a you don't really want to go down that path, and I think that's why Arteta's been reluctant to speak about it. But it's really it is good to see that Saka can beat a man and he can draw fouls. And to be fair, sometimes he does get them, but he doesn't get them all the time, which is frustrating.
Especially the one which will obviously come to a little bit later, but later in the second half where we were sort of, we were deep in our box, defending well, and countering, and it was around about the 80th minute, and it was a really good ball to in behind, and Estupinian, I think that's how you pronounce his name, their fullback, just held him back, and then let go of him just before the ref noticed, it seems, and got away with it. But he's impeded his run, which pretty much stopped a one-on-one with the keeper. So there's they're big calls. But yeah, it just I think you spot on with bringing it up. It kind of seemed like a bit of a sympathy thing, can't it? Or complaining about the refs, and then like you say, they're sometimes more likely not to give you things. It's all psychological, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, that being said, towards the end of the first half, the ref was just pulling yellow cards out left, right, and centre for Arsenal players. And at a point where we were 2-0 up, we were cruising, you did start to worry that because I think Gabriel got a yellow card for time wasting, and then a minute and a half
In the
later,
45th,
Partey, was it
in the
45th
45th
minute?
minute.
Yeah,
How do you time waste in the 45th minute?
exactly. Yeah, he got punished for time wasting, and then Thomas Partey got a yellow card for a challenge just after. But you, there was a bit of worry creeping in for me because in games in the past we've been 2-0 up, cruising, and then somebody would get a silly yellow card. But my mind rolls back to the Man City game, which was actually New Year's Day this year. The first game of the year that we played against Man City, where Gabriel got a red card in that game. You're worrying that if we were to get a red card in this game, especially what we subsequently saw from Brighton in the second half, we really could have come unstuck. So to get into half time just after that and have maybe a grilling from Arteta probably was the best time for us to get those yellows.
Yeah, yeah. I think half time did actually come. It was a perfect point in the game, especially with having just scored in the 39th with Odegaard's strike. So we get the break. We come back out, and similarly to the first goal, we score straight away again. Nketiah, another poacher's goal. That's 2-2 for Nketiah. Quite a lot of. It's fair to say that he's got his critics, and there were a lot of Arsenal fans, rightly or wrongly, sort of hesitant on whether they think that Nketiah can provide in Jesus' absence. But 2-2, like I say, you can't argue with that. I think he did it at a cracking game.
Yeah, Yeah, I completely agree. And the thing is with Nketiah is everyone's been so focused on him trying to emulate and replicate what Gabriel Jesus does on the pitch, but people forget that Nketiah's real strengths is being a fox in the box, being a poacher striker, and that can win you games. He can score goals and win you games with that alone.
Mm.
But he has been trying to adapt and become more Jesus-esque. But to see him just, have his instincts there and to be hovering around the keeper when it spilled back out to him was amazing because it just a little deft touch and then he scored. But it was probably one of the easiest goals that we scored today because I think Partey just brought the ball straight through the midfield, no contest, out to Martinelli. Martinelli, he's really rolling the dice now. Every time he gets the ball on the left wing, I think he's got a real taste for goals because he's having a shot pretty much every time, and then every so often switching it up and cutting it back. But it's great to see him actually have, because if you do roll the dice, then you've got a chance of either scoring, it going out for a corner, or it spilling, and then having players like Nketiah about sniffing the ball out and scoring. So it was a pretty easy goal for us to score, and I'm so glad that Nketiah got on the score sheet.
Yeah, I mean, even with the first goal, it was from a Martinelli crossy shot situation, wasn't it? With it spilling to Saka. So again, that new lease of life with Martinelli is creating goals, and obviously he's scoring them as well. But alongside that, it was another crucial goal, despite being our third, because they'll have just had the break. There would have been a strong emphasis on the next goal is hugely important because if it goes 2-1, then it's, squeaky bum time a little bit, no matter what minute the game is in. It puts doubts into the Arsenal players' minds. So to get the third for ourselves was crucial, and it helped us get a real foot into the game. Um,
And then when we are 3-0 up and we feel like we are in absolute cruise control, it's very unlike Arsenal this season to let teams back into the game. And I guess you've got to give Brighton a bit of credit here because I even saw at 3-0 that there was some empty seats in their stands as well. There were fans that had already given up and gone for an early New Year's bar or something like that. But no, to be fair to Brighton, they never gave up and they really turned it on and gave us a good game in the end. But yeah, when we were 3-0 up, we had another moment of sloppy defending from William Saliba, and they literally just walked straight through the middle of the park. And I think it was, who was it? The Japanese, I can't remember his
is it
name.
Matoma? I think it's
Matova, yeah. He just got on the end of the ball and then slotted it past Ramsdale, and Ramsdale was absolutely furious at that because I think he thought at the time that they were cruising to get a clean sheet and it's going to be another mark against his clean sheet tally, but we actually found out that it was a bit more to it than that.
Yeah, no, yeah, he looked absolutely raging. I think in his mind, yeah, he was thinking, was this going to be a 3-4-5-0 game? So happy days, got a clean sheet, but yeah, it didn't work out that way. And like you were saying, Brighton are a very good team. I think they were seventh before this game. I think they're now eighth. Um, but they've beaten some big teams this season, some of our top six rivals. So away from home, they're always gonna cause you problems. And ultimately they did. They've got one back with Matoma, and then roughly 10 minutes later they get another one back through Ferguson, who was one of their substitutions. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's two
Well,
goals we've conceded there. But thankfully, Martinelli to the rescue. In between that, a really, really beautiful pass from Martin Odegaard. Um, One of the angles that was shown on Sky Sports for that pass was absolutely beautiful. The way curved and just slowed down right into his path. I was thinking he was going to square it to Saka for the tap in. But as you mentioned earlier, he's hungry for goals. He ain't passing that. And yeah, he got his goal for today.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that if if he didn't score that, then Saka would have been absolutely furious. Well,
Mm.
actually, would he have been furious? Because it seems like in this team, no one really gets on each other's back too much, and they just try and lift each other up. So you could imagine Saka giving him a pat on the back and saying, "Don't worry, mate, we'll go again." But yeah, Saka was definitely in the better position, and Martinelli was quite fortunate with the finish in the end because it went between the keeper's legs and rebounded into the goal. But yeah, the goal was definitely made by Odegaard with that pass was just unbelievable.
Wow.
In the commentary, the guys were saying how it's already a contender for pass of the season, assist of the season, and
Yeah.
if there's if there's any reason for Martinelli to have not passed that to Saka, it's so that goes down as an assist because it definitely should have been an assist and it was. And at that period of the game, it was a few minutes, about 5 minutes after we'd conceded the first goal to make it 3-1, and we really were in our rockiest patch. We were starting to concede possession. Brighton were throwing corners in, throwing crosses in, and just before the breakaway that came to that goal, Brighton actually flashed it across our goal, and luckily it came to Gabriel, who then cleared it. Or otherwise, we could have gone to 3-2, and at 65 minutes, getting paid back to 3-2, you really are in panic mode. But no, it came out to Odegaard, and it just shows you that we have the quality to be able to counter in a flash and then take all the pressure off the team by regaining a 3-goal lead.
Yeah. It's such an up and downy game, isn't it? I've said it numerous times, but it was crucial in the end result, that goal. I do think he really should have passed it though. I think with it being such a crucial goal that takes the edge off and the pressure off the game, you want to be guaranteeing that goal. But I appreciate what you're saying, the fact that it goes down as assist, and the fact that it has gone down as assist. It's deserved, very well deserving.
Yeah. And by this point, we'd scored 4 goals, and it was by all 4 of our attacking players. And it just shows you that we literally have quality all across the front 3 and the main man behind them, Odegaard, who's creating and scoring as well. The way that we're set up is to exploit those areas, and we absolutely showed every example of that in our attacking play today.
Yeah, I mean, it was like that in West Ham as well, wasn't it? All 3 of the front line got onto the score sheet. So it's like they're just sort of sharing it all out equally. I'm sure it's not quite working out that way in their heads, but that's how it is on the pitch. But it's nice to see it. It's getting confidence in everyone, not just 1 or 2 players. And I think that's what we're going to be needing with this title pursuit, I guess, if we can dare call it that. But yeah, we need all of our attacking players confident, and that's what they're getting at the minute.
Yeah. So when it actually got to 4-1, I was watching this game with my missus, and I'd been getting a bit stressed when it went to 3-1. And then as soon as we scored and it went to 4-1, she was sat next to me and she goes, "Well, it's 4-1 now, so at least you're not going to lose." And I just stared at her and I thought, it's like 70 minutes in, why the hell would you jinx it? And then almost immediately after she said that, Brighton went and scored and it became 4-2. And I just gave her the evil death stare of, why the hell did you say that?
We'll all blame her then for that one. But yeah, it was so frustrating because, like you say, I was just putting my feet up, thinking, "Oh, I'm going to enjoy this last little 20 minutes now of the game." But nope, it still made us work for it. And even that offside goal towards the end, I think it was Matoma again. That really had me panicking. I was having flashbacks to Newcastle where we drew 4-4. if you can remember, it was a Czech Tiote thunderbolt strike towards the latter stages of the game to get the draw for Newcastle. But I was having flashbacks to that, thinking, no, we can't be having this again. Um,
Yeah,
Thankfully, it was offside marginally.
yeah, and rest in peace to Chet Tiote, by the way. Absolute legend of the football game. But yeah, I genuinely didn't think it was offside when I first watched it. Because of all the emotion in the moment, and they scored, and it went up to 4-3, and there was I couldn't actually see any fault in it at first, and I was thinking, oh my god! You even saw Arteta trying to calm the players down and saying we need to just see this game out now. And then when
Yeah,
they were rolling it back, they pulled it back in on the VAR. You see it, and you're like, this is an absolute lifeline to Arsenal, because we did look like we were getting rocked. We did look like we were starting to panic a little bit at the end of the game. So for it to, in the 88th minute, go from 4-3 to be ruled out back to 4-2, you just saw the stress be relieved from our players, and they could just calmly see the game out, or so you think.
yeah. I've got a little theory actually around why this game was so up and down. Um, Wanting to get your thoughts on it really. And this was to do with the substitutions that Arteta made. So he takes off both of our fullbacks, that being Zinchenko and Ben White, and brings on Tomiyasu and Tierney. You know that changing multiple players in a back line throughout the game is often seen as unwise, um, mainly because it can just sort of bring instability and sort of it's changing the whole back line can sometimes just it can just be too much change and really affect the game. Do you think this has something to do with how Brighton got a foothold back into this game?
Um, well, I'm not quite sure, because I do think that both the players that were brought on are of similar quality, if not better quality, than the players that were already on the pitch. However, that being said, I do think, as you say, it's unwise to change 50% of the back line in one substitution. I think if you're going to do it, maybe bring Tierney on at like the 60th minute and then give him time to embed himself into the game, and then bring Tomiyasu on the like the 68th, 69th minute. Yeah, I think to change, it's like the old wives' tale, like you shouldn't make substitutions on corners. If you've not got in the flow of the game, then you might not be quite up to speed, and you don't want two of your four defenders not being up to speed at the same time. And
Yeah.
to be fair, not long after they came on is when we started to concede goals. So you could maybe put two and two together, but I think the goals came through the middle, didn't they? Primarily, I know the first one did, and then the second one, Saliba, he had a bit of a mare, didn't he? He was pulled from pillar to post, and then he actually got out muscled, and then they scored. So yeah, I get what you're saying though. It's a bit drastic to change two players, but I feel like if you're a manager and you're 3-0 up and you've got players on the bench that desperately need minutes, then you can't really be criticised too much for making that change.
No, I mean I'm not criticizing the individual players that came on. It was just for me, it's a lot. We play with Zinchenko as an inverted midfielder essentially, and he was very high in this game, more so than I've seen in any other game, to be honest. Uh, and a lot of our play was going through Zinchenko. Um, Tierney is getting better at that inverted role, but he's still not at this level as of what Zinchenko can do. And it just seemed the minute those two came on, Brighton realised that, and it almost enabled them to get back into the game. At no fault of Tierney's or Zinchenko's, it just sort of, in my opinion, allowed them more possession, more time on the ball, and ultimately scored two goals. But it's hard to say.
I think it did also coincide with Brighton's substitutions as well, because when we brought those players on, they brought on, is it Estupian, the Ecuadorian player, and they also brought on the other guy that scored their second goal.
Ferguson.
Ferguson, that was it. So both of those players came on when our players came on, and to be fair to Estupiñán, he was looking like a bit of a menace on the right hand side. He was causing a few problems. He had a few dives though, which you
Yeah,
don't.
that's actually Sarmentio. I can't, it's the other Ecuadorian.
Saka. Oh,
Sarmentio, I think he's called.
right.
My pronunciation's not so great, but yeah, when he came on, yeah, he did cause a little bit of damage. But yeah, that was a very blatant dive, wasn't it? I think he deserved that, not to get away with that one.
Yeah, I'll blame my misidentification on mispronunciation. That's what I was trying to say.
Well, they're both Ecuadorian. I can see where he made it.
So we ended up bringing on Rob Holding, and Rob Holding does what Rob Holding does and saw the game out. So we eventually did finish the game 4-2, and that led us to finish today being 7 points clear at the top of the table after some decent results for us, with Man City dropping 2 points against... Who did they play again?
It was Everton.
Everton, that's it. Yeah, they dropped 2 points against Everton, and the Damari Gray goal was great. Did you see that one?
That was Thunderbolt. Reminded me of the one he scored against us, to be honest. So it was nice.
PTSD.
Yeah, PTSD.
And also
Nice to do that
Newcastle,
to our rivals.
yeah, and Newcastle dropping points as well, which gives us a nice little gap going into the new year. However, well, the commentator on the telly, she said no side has ever been 7 points clear on New Year's Eve and not gone on to win the Premier League title. And I'm just sat there thinking, shut up, shut up.
I know. Yeah, but I guess most teams at this point in the year will have played four, maybe five games more. So we've got that little asterisk to our name, a little get out of jail card there.
Yeah, that is true. And going into the new year, looking at our next six fixtures, we've got Newcastle at home, Tottenham away, Man United at home, Everton away, Brentford at home, and then Man City at home. Now,
Yeah.
could this be the most pivotal run of fixtures for Arsenal in the title race? And how important do you think it is that we have a 7 point lead going into this run of fixtures?
I mean, if we want to be in a title race, literally every game from now to the end of the season is important. You know, when our rivals drop points like today, it's important that we get points and make the gap even bigger. Um, you know, it's one of those that it's just constantly always going to be important. But those are some tough games, aren't they? But you know, we're at this point in the season, having only lost to Man United in a game that, on reflection, we probably deserve to win, and even VAR have later clarified that Martinelli's goal in that game should have been allowed. So who knows? We probably could have won that game under different circumstances. So on form, we're the best team in the league. We deserve to be where we are. We're not there out of luck or out of other teams not doing well. For example, we have taken we've only dropped a handful of points, and we're nearly at the halfway stage. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be key this stage in the season. These few games, but for the first time in a long time, I'm actually going into games really quite confident. We just seem to have really, really good players in really, really top form. And who knows, we could even be adding more players in January to even strengthen our campaign. Did you see Mudryk posting on social media throughout the game?
No, I didn't actually
No?
see that. What did he
Have
post?
you not seen that? Well, he did it in the West Ham game. He was sort of posting photos of his TV screen, watching the game, sort of almost cheering us on. And today I think it was when on the cameras, both Arteta and the Brighton coach were in the same shot, and his caption was two great coaches. Obviously, the Brighton manager used to manage at Shakhtar Donetsk, so he will have had previous, yeah, he'll have worked under him. And he's also complimenting Arteta at the same time. So, just another subtle, not subtle hint that he's very keen on joining the Arsenal. So who knows? He could be someone that we're going to get and further strengthen this campaign.
Yeah, I think by this point, Mudryk is probably the least subtle about wanting to join Arsenal. But, I mean, who can blame him, really? You've got a side who historically historically have won a lot of titles and look like they're coming back into a great run of form of maybe potentially challenging for titles in the best league in the world. And he's currently playing in the Ukrainian league, not the Turkish league, which I'd like to correct myself on from last time. And he seems like he looks really ready to go to that next level and step up in his career. So yeah, I mean, why not? I guess I feel like he's doing everything he can to try and force this move, and ultimately, players have power, and they can. I know they have certain contracts that they have to respect, but players can really force a move if they actually want to.
I have seen rumours circulating that Chelsea are looking to hijack this move, almost like they tried with Jesus back in the summer, unsuccessfully, obviously. They seem to just want to hijack every single transfer going, don't they, Chelsea? That Todd Bowley seems as if he's just playing Football Manager, and just wants to sign whoever's in the headlines. It's so surreal. I've seen reports that they're trying to get Enzo Fernandez, the Argentinian, from Benfica for silly, stupid money. So they really are quite baffling. But I think, like you say, his heart seems to be set on Arsenal, and a lot of work has gone into this deal. And I think that's still going to put us in good stead to get this deal over the line. Obviously, if we could come to some sort of agreement.
Yeah, and I think with how vocal Mudryk has been about wanting to sign for Arsenal, and he's not been subtle at all, it would be a bit embarrassing for him to then go to Chelsea. Chelsea fans will be welcoming a player who's been pining for a move to Arsenal. So I don't know how that would actually work, but I think Mudryk for the right price is definitely obtainable. I think the bosses at Shakhtar Donetsk have pretty much already made it clear that if we pay the right price, then we can get him. It's just the price that they're quoting is ridiculous. So I do think they'll meet in the middle somewhere and sign him, and I really do hope he doesn't go to Chelsea.
No. I've been doing a lot of research on him this week, and I never realised how young he was. He's not. He's still 21. I think 22 next month, but he looks like a potential world-class player in the making. I really can see that with this guy. He's just got something about him. I think it's his sort of speed and strength coupled with his technical ability. It's something quite rare in a wide player. So I really am keen on us making this signing. And to be honest, there's not really that many wide options available in the market at the minute. So if it's not him, who could it be? So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting to see if we can actually get this over the line and get it done in January. And when they were talking to Arteta about the January transfer window, he didn't really play it down like managers usually do. He was quite optimistic. He was saying if there's room for us to strengthen and use our facilities and use the money that we've got, then we're going to do it and try and strengthen. So Yeah, I'm hopeful that we'll get someone in, and potentially maybe the João Felix thing as well. But we've already said our feelings on that, and especially with Nketiah getting 2 goals in 2 games, I can't really see any reason for us to panic and get João Felix now.
No. No, I mean, I'm not sure that one makes much sense to me. Um, yeah, maybe if the Mudryk deal falls through and they really dig their heels in on this 100 million price tag, then obviously we're not going to be paying that. Then maybe it makes more sense. But you know, if Mudryk's coming in or another wide forward's coming in, then I don't think João Felix makes too much sense.
No, no. So just briefly going back to our next 6 games, let's have a little prediction, and then we can always look back on the podcast and see how we did. So Newcastle at home. Do you expect us to win that?
I do. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So Tottenham away.
What about you?
What, for Newcastle?
Yeah.
I think that we've got the facilities to beat Newcastle at home. We're really good at home at the minute, and Newcastle have been great. However, I feel like I think they are punching above their weight, Newcastle, whereas I think that Arsenal are playing to the standard that they've set. So I can see us getting 3 points.
Yeah, and like you say, the Emirates is a bit of a fortress at the minute. Probably one of the best atmospheres in the league, so it's not going to be a nice environment for them to come to.
No, absolutely not. So then going on to Tottenham away. Now, Arsenal do not tend to perform well away at Spurs. So for me personally, I'd probably put that as a draw because I'm being optimistic. What about you?
Well, you see, last year in that also important game, we were sort of heavily impacted with injuries, weren't we? I think even some players played that were still sort of nursing injuries. We obviously had players like Cedric on and Holding, which, just are nowhere near the level of players that could have been on and will be on this time round. So I've got a feeling it's almost certainly going to be a lot closer this game, especially if we can keep 11 men on the pitch. Um, so, I want to be optimistic and say 3 points, but I know what you're saying. Like it's such a big game, and I think a draw would still actually be quite, you know, would still be a good result, is what I'm trying to say. 4 points out of 6 taken from Spurs would be a good result for the season.
So are you going for a draw?
Yeah, I'll go for a draw.
Draw. Okay. So then the next game is Man United at home. Now, for me, I think if we were playing the Man United that we played before, that we actually lost to, but at home, I feel like we would have won that game. But United have come into a really good vein of form recently, and they've picked up a few wins in a row. So we are at home. So I'd like for us to edge it and win, but I'm also going to be quite realistic with where United are in their form. So I'm going to go for a draw on that one as well.
I'm going to go for a win on that one. I'm still riding high on the victory from last season. If we went to that game, if you remember, it was the Xhaka Thunderbolt goal that got us the win. No, there's something about United. Even in today's game, I can't remember who they played now, but they didn't play that well. They bailed out by a Rashford goal off the bench. They just don't look very fluent, and they don't look. I don't know. There's just something about that United team. They haven't really got an out-and-out goal scorer at number 9. So no, I think we'll get 3 points in that game.
Yeah, okay. So then the next game is Everton away. Now, normally I would just straight up say, 3 points. However, they managed to hold Man City today to a 1-1 draw, albeit they didn't actually play too well. They defended really well, but their goal was a bit of individual brilliance from Damari Gray. So I'm pretty confident, actually, that we would go there and get 3 points. What about you?
Yeah, I'm hoping we can use that game as a bit of research into what they're likely to set up as in our game. We obviously play quite similar to City, and I noticed that they basically just put 10 men behind the ball all game. Um, so we're going to have to do a lot of. Oh, well, we're sort of used to playing against that low block now, teams sitting back. But yeah, that's something we're going to have to be mindful of, and we're going to have to be patient in that game. I think as long as we can do those things, then 3 points is up for grabs.
Yep. Okie dokie. And then we've got Brentford at home. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, 3 points.
Yeah.
Again, home game. Um, yeah, lower league
Yeah.
team.
So yeah, I've gone for just a kick about in the park with the boys or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, a win for me. And then the big one, Man City at home. What do you reckon to that game?
God. Yeah, a draw would be a really good result in that game. Um, just because a loss would be so well, not detrimental, but it's a 6 pointer, isn't it? So, um, but yeah, we're the home team. We went close last year against City. It was only that last minute Rodri goal that really scuppered things, wasn't it? Yeah, I'll go for a close game draw.
Okie dokie. So I've just added that up, and we've picked different draws and wins, but we've both come out with 14 points from the next six
Oh,
games. So that's out of a possible 18, isn't it? 14 out of 18, which would land us on 57 points. Now, I think if we're on 57 points after how many games we played now? 15, 16? 16 points, so 22. So if we're on 57 points after 22 games, that really would put us into good stead for a title race. What do you reckon?
yeah. I think if we get 14 out of 18 in those games against those sort of teams, yeah, then I will really start to be believing, and I'll be regretting my cash out of my bet on Arsenal to win the league.
You
Um,
should have had faith.
okay, we scored four away from home against a very good team, a team who have beat our top six rivals this season. A brilliant way to end 2022, and we remain deservedly top of the table. So, thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you all again next week for the Newcastle one. Have a good one, guys. Take care.
Bye.